I finally got to see Godzilla Minus One, and I'm really glad to have been able to see it in a theater. Mine was small, but it wasn't empty at 1:30 on a Sunday, and I sat next to an old Wyoming cowboy and his grandson. The cowboy was dressed in the prototypical flannel, jeans, and leather boots, complete with a well-groomed mustache and a belly that says all his hard work paid off at some point. Not unlike my own grandfather. He struck up a short conversation with me and said that back in the day, he'd see the occasional French or Italian film, but he was amazed to be watching a Japanese movie in the theater. His grandson, maybe 10 or so, remarked that he was really going to have to pay attention since the movie would be subtitled. A level of focus, by the way, that I greatly appreciate from the iPad generation. Now, I describe these two, and particularly the cowboy, because that is the last demographic I'd have expected to see at a foreign film, even if it is Godzilla and I am in Wyoming. I was happy to experience the film not only as an individual, but through them as well. Speaking of my experience as an individual, I had an unexpected and intense connection to this film. If you haven't seen it, I'll try to be mostly spoiler-free, but I need to establish who the main character is. The movie centers around a kamikaze pilot named Koichi Shikishima, and it picks up just after he's disobeyed orders to kill himself at the end of World War II. He faked engine trouble and landed on a nearby island for repairs. This is where he meets a much smaller, pre-nuclear Godzilla. He attempts to use the 20mm guns on his Zero to engage Godzilla, but he freezes up. All but one of the mechanics on the island are killed, and Shikishima is rendered unconscious after the mechanics attempt to engage with small arms fire. It's important to note that whether those 20mm guns would have killed Godzilla or not is kind of irrelevant. There's a very real chance that all of those people would have died anyway if he'd pulled the trigger, and he definitely would have died. Not unlike his kamikaze sortie fighting the US Navy. When Shikishima gets home, he's met by a woman that tells him things would have been different if men like him had just fought harder. If they'd thrown away their lives too, rather than addressing the real problem, which was how cheaply the Japanese government treated the lives of their soldiers. This is something that is addressed later on by the Imperial Navy veterans that team up to take on Godzilla. They talk about poorly armored tanks, planes built without ejection seats, and of course kamikaze bombers. Not only is this an effective criticism of Imperial Japan, it's also a setup for a payoff later that capitalizes on the theme of valuing life. It's truly excellent, and it's something that's always felt absent from me in other monster movies or disaster movies. There's never any reverence for the lives lost. It's just kind of gruesome for the sake of it. Anyway, the thing that really hit me was a scene between the older veterans and their bright-eyed friend that had never seen combat. It's the night before they commence their operation to defeat Godzilla, and the kid is getting excited. He missed out on the war with America, but he's not going to miss out on this. He finally gets a chance to be a part of something bigger than himself and do something that matters for other people. At least that's what he thinks. The leader of their group tells him that he's not going tomorrow. Now obviously the kid is pissed. This was his big moment, but the leader tells him that to have not seen war is something to be proud of. It's not often that you find the words you needed to hear, and it's less common to find them in a movie, but after watching my brother go off to war and after raising my hand to do the same, only to miss out, I was that kid. I know exactly where that character is coming from and what it's like to be told no when you say send me. So here I am, having this profoundly personal experience with a movie about Japanese Imperial Navy veterans fighting a giant dinosaur next to a cowboy and his grandson. Each of us having our own experience, and each of us rooting for those guys to beat that giant dinosaur. It just hit me how human that is, and how true it is that good stories, no matter where they come from, are for everyone.
Godzilla -1